lot of some resources through their information up that they're doing, including transportation. So all of the, and Robert, correct me if I'm wrong, but all of the ICMS providers right now are connected to that resource.
Yes.
So, and they provide now, they have transportation that's available, they make sure that people are being connected to resources. So there's things that are happening on the ground that are making sure that we alleviate some of the issues that we already heard voiced earlier, right? Like I think what's happening in the system, especially coming out of COVID, we seized an opportunity where we can start to understand and acknowledge the disparities that exist within the system itself. And then now create collaborative opportunities where we have to begin to build these bridges to really begin to address them so people get access to services in real time. Not just when they're being released from the county jail, but the system as a whole. I'm fortunate I was appointed to sit on the board of PIA and by the governor a few years ago, and we're still addressing a lot of issues that are happening within the state system as people are returning, and PIA really handles a lot of some of the workforce components that are inside the jails, not the total state system, but we're really trying to change how people come home with livable wages, right? Like, how do we begin to address that too? Because it's not just about gate money, it's also about making sure that people that are doing the work while they're down, that they can come out with, I think, a viable income. So these things are happening now. We need to continue the efforts that we're doing. There's a lot of things that have to be overcome as we're talking about the work that we're doing around pretrial, for example. I think that getting the courts to buy into some of the stuff we're doing, nobody rules the courts, and so, that's a part of the system that we don't talk about a lot, that how we get that buy-in, and I think that's some of the efforts that we're working collectively, lobbyists with all of our justice partners within the county and the state to kind of figure out the system as a whole. How do we really think about welcoming somebody home to an opportunity in a safe landing space, but also making sure that they have the access to transportation to connect with the resources that they need, and making sure too that we're understanding how the law works, right? Because we have some people who cannot go back to communities of origin, right? Because of what situation they were in, whether they have affiliation or not. And so now we have to create a different process for that individual. It looks different, right? Because we might say you can go back home, but it might not be legally possible for them to go back home. And so nor is it safe for them to go back home. And so we need to figure those things out right now. That's how complicated, I think when Paul talks about how complicated the system is, that's how complicated it is. But when you join forces with an entity like LARP, you bring your voice to the table, and it's a public-private partnership that allows you to bring these concerns to the table so that we begin to work together to address them through an inside-out strategy, right? We need to be at the table. Like, if you're not in the room, you can't make the changes, right? And so we got to be at the table in the room to make the changes, but we also got to be strong enough to know that if it ain't working the way we want, that we know how to storm City Hall. I mean, you understand what I'm saying? Like, we got to be able to do both, right? So they can understand that we are working together to form these partnerships and these collaborations. That's one of the reasons why we lifted AMI up to be the third-party administrator. Why did we do that? Because people think, so AMI got all the money. No, they don't. They disseminate the money. And we need to make sure we change our language, right? Because hundreds of agencies that would have never received money is receiving it now because we advocated and fought to have a third-party administrator in the space to give that money. Because there were other people trying to grab that funding. You need to understand that's a lot of money that we're raising all the time, and people were trying to grab that money, and now we're going beyond that through the Leaders Academy that JCOD leads. Right now we're doing training, incubating organizations, and now there's going to be a coaching and mentoring component that's attached to that. There's grant making that comes alongside of that. We'll be able to identify key needs in those agencies and focus. helping to develop a component of their organization. This stuff has never happened before. That's why when I was speaking to you earlier, where we are right now in terms of the state of reentry has never been this way before. And I've been doing this for 30-something years. It's never been this way before. The resources, the will to get it done, the alignment, the intellect that is returning home that can help us. Now, it's never been marshaled like this before, and that's what we're trying to do, is make sure that we bring it all together and use it collectively so that we can actually get the change that we're seeking.